10-year-old Yusuf struggles to maintain his Muslim faith in a new school where few understand his traditions. When bullies record him praying during recess and label him a terrorist, an unexpected ally with a hidden connection emerges with a plan. What begins as an act of cruelty transforms into a powerful movement of understanding that spreads far beyond the schoolyard walls. Chapter 1. The phone cameras clicked like insects, their sounds piercing through Yusuf's concentration as he knelt on his small prayer mat. He had carefully chosen this quiet corner of the schoolyard, behind the old oak tree where the teachers rarely patrolled during recess. The autumn sun warmed his back as he performed his prostration, his forehead touching the mat while whispered prayers escaped his lips. Hey, look! The terrorist is planning something! The voice belonged to Drake, the tallest boy in 5th grade. Laughter erupted, followed by the shuffling of feet as more students gathered. Yusuf's heart hammered against his ribs, but he didn't stop. His father's words echoed in his mind. Never interrupt your prayers, son. When you speak to Allah, nothing else matters. Is he speaking in code? Maybe he's contacting his terrorist friends. This time, it was Mia, a girl who used to share her cookies with him last year before she started hanging out with Drake's group. Yusuf's cheeks burned with shame, but his lips continued moving, reciting the verses he'd memorized since he was 4. His small hands trembled against the colorful mat his grandmother had given him before they moved to this new town. I'm recording this for TikTok, someone whispered. Terrorist kid praised a bomb school. It'll go viral. Tears formed behind Yusuf's closed eyelids. He was only 10, but he understood what they were implying. The word terrorist had been thrown at him before. At the grocery store when his mother wore her hijab. At the park when his father spoke Arabic on the phone. As Yusuf finished his prayer, he slowly folded his mat, the weight of a dozen stairs, pressing down on his shoulders. When he finally looked up, he found himself surrounded by a semicircle of grinning faces and pointing phones. What would they do next? And where were the teachers who were supposed to be watching? Chapter 2. What's going on here? The sharp voice cut through the crowd like a knife. Ms. Rivera, the new art teacher, strode toward them with purpose, her colorful scarf fluttering behind her like a flag. The phones disappeared into pockets with remarkable speed. Drake stepped forward, his smile practiced and innocent. Nothing, Ms. Rivera. We were just watching Yusuf do his weird ritual thing. Ms. Rivera's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the scene, taking in Yusuf's reddened eyes and the prayer mat clutched tightly against his chest. Everyone except Yusuf, back to the main yard. Now. As the crowd dispersed, she knelt beside Yusuf. Are you okay? Her voice was gentle, different from her teacher tone. Yusuf nodded mechanically, though everything inside him felt wrong. I'm fine, he whispered, the lie bitter on his tongue. I heard what they called you, she said, her eyes soft with concern. And I saw the phones. Were they recording you? Before Yusuf could answer, the bell rang, signaling the end of recess. Students began streaming back into the building. We need to talk about this, Ms. Rivera said, but not here, not now. She stood and offered him her hand. Come to the art room after school today. I want to show you something. As they walked toward the building, Yusuf noticed Drake and his friends huddled by the entrance, watching. Drake drew his finger across his throat. A clear message. What did Ms. Rivera want to show him? And how could he possibly go to the art room when Drake and his friends would surely be waiting? Chapter 3. The final bell rang and Yusuf lingered at his desk, arranging and rearranging his notebooks as the classroom emptied. His stomach twisted with indecision. Ms. Rivera was waiting for him, but so was Drake, probably lurking in the hallway with his friends. Aren't you going home, Yusuf? Mrs. Chen, his homeroom teacher, asked as she erased the whiteboard. I need to go to the art room first, he mumbled, fingers fidgeting with his backpack straps. Mrs. Chen smiled. Ms. Rivera mentioned you might stop by. Would you like me to walk with you? Relief washed over him. With Mrs. Chen beside him, the hallway journey passed without incident, though he caught glimpses of Drake and 2 others watching from the water fountain. The art room smelled of paint and clay. Ms. Rivera stood beside an easel covered with a cloth. 3 other easels were similarly draped, creating a mysterious gallery. Thank you, Ling, Ms. Rivera nodded to Mrs. Chen, who squeezed Yusuf's shoulder before leaving. Yusuf, Ms. Rivera gestured to a stool. I want to show you something important. She pulled the cloth from the first easel, revealing a painting of a woman in a hijab, her face serene as she knelt in prayer. The brushstrokes were bold, the colors vibrant. This is my mother, Ms. Rivera said quietly. She converted to Islam when she married my father. Yusuf's eyes widened. You're Muslim? Yes, she smiled. Though I don't wear hijab like my mother, I practice my faith. She uncovered the second canvas, a painting of children being taunted on a playground. "This was my experience growing up," she explained. "After 9/11, classmates who had been my friends suddenly called me terrorist, just like they did to you today." Yusuf's throat tightened. "How did you make them stop?" Ms. Rivera uncovered the third canvas, showing the same children now painting together. "I didn't, not right away. But I found my voice through art. And eventually some of them found their understanding." She moved to the fourth canvas, still covered. "This is where your story could go, Yusuf. But you have to decide what happens next. Do you hide your faith to please them? Do you fight back with anger? Or do you find another way?" Yusuf stared at the covered canvas, imagination racing. "What's under there?" "Nothing yet. I thought perhaps we could create it together." She handed him a brush. "But first, we need to deal with those videos from today. Have you told your parents about the bullying?" Yusuf looked down, shame washing over him. "No. Dad works 2 jobs. Mom is still learning English and already feels out of place. I don't want to give them more problems." "Keeping this secret is a heavy burden," Ms. Rivera said. "One you shouldn't carry alone. What if the videos spread? Wouldn't it be better if they heard about it from you first?" Before Yusuf could answer, the art room door swung open. Principal Garcia stepped in, his expression grave. "Ms. Rivera, Yusuf, I need you both to come with me. It seems we have a situation involving some videos that are circulating." Yusuf's heart sank. How had things escalated so quickly? And what would happen when his parents found out? Chapter 4. The principal's office felt smaller than Yusuf remembered from his school tour last summer. His parents sat stiffly in chairs designed for bodies much smaller than theirs. His father's work uniform still dusty from the construction site. His mother's hands nervously adjusting her hijab. On the computer screen before them played the video. Yusuf praying, the taunts clearly audible, the word terrorist hanging in the air like poison. But something unexpected had happened to the video. Someone had added text at the bottom. "This is what Islamophobia looks like in 5th grade. Education, not hate. How to respect faith." The video had indeed gone viral, but not as Drake had intended. The comment section was flooded with messages of support, outrage at the bullying, and education about Islamic prayer. "The video was uploaded by an anonymous account," Principal Garcia explained, "but it's clearly from our school. We've identified several students involved in the bullying, including the one who made the original recording." Yusuf's father placed a protective hand on his son's shoulder. "And what will happen to these students?" His accent was thick, his voice controlled but tense. "They will face appropriate disciplinary action," the principal assured him. "But more importantly, this has highlighted the need for education. Ms. Rivera has proposed a cultural awareness program, starting immediately." Ms. Rivera nodded. "We can use this unfortunate incident as a teaching opportunity. With your permission, Yusuf, I'd like you to help explain your faith to your classmates. Not because you have to, but because sometimes understanding begins with one brave voice." Yusuf looked at his parents. His mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but she gave him an encouraging nod. His father squeezed his shoulder. "I can do that," Yusuf said softly, then with more confidence. "I want to do that." 2 weeks later, Yusuf stood before his class, no longer alone. Ms. Rivera had helped him prepare a presentation, complete with a demonstration of prayer rituals and their meanings. His father had come to speak about their homeland and their journey to America. His mother had sent traditional sweets for everyone to share. Drake sat in the back row, subdued. The school counselor had been working with him daily, and yesterday, he had approached Yusuf with an awkward but seemingly genuine apology. "And this," Yusuf said, unveiling the canvas he and Ms. Rivera had been working on after school, "is what we created together." The painting showed a diverse group of children in a circle, some kneeling in prayer, some sitting in contemplation, others simply being present with respect. In the background, phones were being used not to mock, but to share and learn, symbolized by gentle blue connection lines linking the children together. "Prayer is how I talk to God," Yusuf explained. "It gives me strength and peace. Everyone has their own way of finding those things, and everyone deserves to practice their faith without fear." As the class erupted in applause, Yusuf caught Ms. Rivera's eye. She smiled and held up her phone, where notifications were still coming in on the now viral video. But these notifications were different. Schools across the country were reaching out, asking how they could implement similar cultural awareness programs. What had started as an act of bullying had transformed into something powerful, a movement of understanding that was spreading far beyond their small school. And at the center of it all stood Yusuf, no longer afraid to kneel in prayer, no longer alone in his corner of the schoolyard. Have you ever stood up for someone who was different? Or have you found the courage to be proudly yourself, even when others didn't understand. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply be who we are, openly and without apology. Wow, what a story! And there is more coming. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss a new stories.